There's nobody better qualified than the King to deal with someone like Trump.
It's unpredictable, though. Everything with Donald Trump is unpredictable.
This will be his most important task to date as the King. We've got the world sort of teetering on World War III.
Well, I call this sort of the 1917 moment where the royal family's got to wake up and smell the roses.
World peace, family peace, you know, the King's got a lot on his plate.
Did you watch Saturday Night Live?
The dark comedy within it of how horrible Andrew's life has been PR-wise.
Welcome to Royal Exclusive, where the King is packing his bags for a high-stakes state visit to the US, but with political tensions exploding and Donald Trump never far from controversy, could this be the most unpredictable royal tour in years? Andrew is back in the spotlight after a brutal late-night TV roasting watched by millions, and Beatrice and Eugenie appear to be spending Easter in exile, following the fallout from their parents. Plus, Harry is once again extending what looks like to be a peace offering to the King, but only if security comes with it. I'm Matt Wilkinson, Royal Editor of The Sun, and joining me to discuss all of this and more is Royal biographer Robert Jobson and news commentator Samara Gill. Welcome to you both. The King's state visit, look, it's been the worst kept secret. We know it was actually at some stage going to be announced. It has been announced now, Rob. It's surely Charles's most difficult, thorny diplomatic mission that he has had since he's become King. But why is he being sent there? Is he being sent there to save our Prime Minister's skin? Is he being sent there to kind of smooth over the dreadful relations that we have between Trump and Starmer at the moment?
Well, Matt, you broke the story, so that it obviously put them on the back foot of the palace because they don't want to announce these things until all the issues have been ironed out. So it's taken that long, worst kept secret. But look, I think that Starmer he's putting the King in a bit of a difficult position. But in all honesty, there's nobody better qualified than the King to deal with someone like Trump. Trump, I believe, will probably behave while he's there. As soon as he's on the plane to Bermuda, he'll start saying things that the King can't stand Starmer, or Starmer's a loser, the King agrees with me. But whilst he's there, I think that, and whilst the King is going to make his speech at the White House and the speech to Congress, I think everything will go pretty smoothly. You know, His Majesty does know how to deal with these situations, and he's got experience of dealing with Donald Trump with the incoming state visit. So I think it'll go, actually, strangely, I think it'll go relatively smoothly and to programme. Yes, we've got all these side issues to do with the congressman writing to the Charles and Camilla and saying, will they get involved with the victims? And of course they're not going to get involved with the victims.
This is the Jeffrey Epstein victims and survivors.
Yeah, they can't get involved in that because there's ongoing investigation. They've got the perfect way out of it. But I think it'll probably, the media will be kept at a distance. I think security will make sure of that. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of members of the public interacting either. So I think it'll go relatively smoothly, actually.
It's unpredictable, though. Everything with Donald Trump is unpredictable. I'm really intrigued by the way that the palace pitched this to us once they announced it about 24 hours ago. They stressed that this was on the advice of the UK government. Do we think that Charles wants to go?
I mean, this will be his most important task to date as the King. I mean, we've got the world on a knife's edge at the moment, sort of teetering on World War III. I'm not trying to be over dramatic here, but yes, Trump is unpredictable, but the King is pretty much the only person that he actually listens to, if you think about it. He listens to no one, Trump, but the King is going to have to do total diplomatic gymnastics here in order to pull something off and get into Trump's ear about potential world peace or whatever direction he wants to go in. I'm sure he'll be briefed in some sort of way. There'll be a collaboration with the government, I'm just assuming, but this is all on the King's shoulders at this point. It is a very serious task.
I mean,
do I think he wants to go? No, I don't.
You don't think he wants to go?
No, I mean, if given the choice, but he hasn't got a choice. It's his job.
It's his job. That's totally it.
Yeah, you know,
that's what he's there for.
Roy Keane here, but it is what he does. You know, but does he want to go? From what I understand, there have been a few rants behind the scene, like, "What am I doing? Why am I being sent on this?" But you know, he knows he has to do what the Prime Minister's asking him to do. It does seem a bit odd, let's be honest, that we had a state visit incoming not that long ago, and now we've got to have an immediately. It's to do with the 250th anniversary of independence. But it does seem a bit odd that there's such a quick turnaround of these state visits. But it's something, I suppose, given his health and his position that he's living with cancer, maybe this is one of these things that the timing is all about this moment, and so he has to do it. But if he had a choice, I don't think he'd want to go, no.
Well, there's going to be a few things that, who knows what's going to happen in a month's time. Things happen so fast in the world at the moment, as you pointed out there, we're on the brink of World War III. Who knows what's going to happen?
I was getting really worried when I was
breaking news,
I was just
everybody.
Going to say, where is the bunker?
But by the end of April, we don't really know what's going to be happening with Iran. But what we do know is that the Epstein files and the Epstein scandal will still be rumbling on. And Rob pointed out there, Samara, that there have been calls, and there's also been calls from Sky Roberts, Virginia Giuffre's brother, who has said that Charles and Camilla should meet with survivors and victims. I mean, we talk about the King being an expert on diplomacy and schmoozing Donald Trump and representing the UK. What's he going to do about these calls to meet survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein, considering Andrew, his brother, has been arrested?
I don't think he'll be doing that. He may send Camilla off to do that for him, but I don't think he would directly do that, as it could kind of be seen as an admission of guilt in some sort of way towards Andrew. But I also think that just like Trump is using Iran in some sort of way to distract from the Epstein files, in my opinion, the King could also use this visit to distract from what's going on in that way. So I think it's beneficial for both of them optically to distract from the bigger story, which is the Virginia Giuffre, which is the Epstein victims. I mean, would you agree or no?
They'll be nowhere near it. No Camilla or the King. It'll be the key. It'll become a media story. The TV here locally will have them on saying, we need to do something about this, but nothing will be done about it. The issue will be, and I think the issue will be when he addresses Congress, because he's addressing both parties, and if the congressman's in there, how do we know there's not going to be an incident like we saw in Australia?
We were in Canberra, weren't we? And the
there could be someone shout out, and then what about this? Now that would be embarrassing, but I just don't see that the King is going to change what his focus will simply be on diplomacy. He'll be talking about 250 years since, say we've had disagreements in the past. We went to war. This is just, if they're going to reference anything to do with what's been going on with Starmer and things, I just don't think that'll be referenced. And I don't think the Epstein thing will be addressed.
Well, Andrew, obviously, we always have to say, Andrew Mountbatten, as the most recent statement we have from him, he denies the allegations that have been put to him. We haven't heard anything from recently, but he's always denied.
And his arrest is to do with his role as an envoy, nothing to do with the victims. But one thing we do know is that he was very friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, and the email trail that we do know is a total liar.
But it's the unpredictability that you were talking about earlier, Rob, that I'm sticking with here. Is we don't, as you say, there could be someone calling out in Congress like we had in Australia. Do we think there's possibility of protests, or will it be on the fringe? I mean, look, let's be honest. We have a lot of American viewers here. It's not like
there will be
Congress
protests.
building itself hasn't had problems.
I think there will be protests, but I don't think they'll be within a mile of the King. I mean, I think that the security will be the excuse for just keeping people back.
Similar to what happened when Trump came.
I remember years ago going with William and Catherine, and we were in the press area. We were so far back we could barely see them. So I just feel that that's the way it's going to be run, and security will be used as the excuse to avoid any problems, I think.
I think the Americans have great respect for the royal family and a total reverence for them. I think that there'll be less... I think there's nothing in their mind that the King has done wrong directly. So, I mean, if some of the sort of the overhang from the Andrew issue comes to play, sure, but I think that it will mostly go smoothly.
It's also going to be marking the 250th anniversary of when the United States obviously fought a war of independence and
kicked out a king,
and kicked out a king. I mean, how does we talk about Charles not wanting to go, but how do you think he feels about that, Rob?
Well, we'll see when he speaks, but obviously whoever his speechwriters are going to be having a bit of fun with this, I'm sure, because he's going to have to address the fact that, they kicked out Mad King George and he's a relation of him. But look, I think that they've dealt with these situations before. They've dealt with tricky diplomatic speeches. They've had to go to, countries where there was slavery and talk about reparations. And avoid talking about reparations. So I think that the speechwriter's been working hard with Charles to try and build bridges, to try and smooth over the difficulties that have happened. And ultimately, it is his job. That's what he does.
100%. It's worth pointing out that I think the palace have indicated that he wouldn't meet victims of Epstein because there is a live case, or there are many live legal cases.
Is but over here?
I think they indicated that I think they're kind of hinting that not yet. Don't rule it out, but at the moment it's not the right time to do it. But Samara, I want to get your thoughts because we're going to the US. Okay, me and Rob are going to the US. It's going to be amazing.
Where was my invite?
Others will be there apart from Matt and I.
You are welcome.
I was not CC'd on this, Matt.
You are welcome to come. We've not booked our flights and stuff yet, so you're welcome to come.
Oh, thank you.
I have.
Have you? But whenever we write stories about royals in the United States, it's normally the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Now, we are told that they're not going to meet, but Harry's just the other side of the other side of continental America. But why doesn't he fly over to New York and Washington and maybe say hello to his dad?
Well, it'll have to be say hello to his dad and also say hello to Trump, who has famously basically implied that he wants to deport Meghan and Harry. So I don't think that relationship is going to be sort of melded in Washington. It's not going to happen, in my opinion, because Trump is involved, and this is very much, it would overshadow what the visit is about, which is about unity, creating that special bond again between the United States and the UK. And Harry and Meghan getting involved, I can't think of anything worse for that.
There's only one diplomatic mission he's being sent on. It's not to resolve things with Harry, basically. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we're still not quite sure exactly. I mean, there's some suggestion they may arrive earlier and stay somewhere else. Before, so that they're not flying in directly, and that's happened before. We've seen that in Australia and places. I'm sure they're not going to Montecito, and I'm sure there's not some secret exchange of those two children that were and to see their grandfather. I'm sure that's not going to happen. I think that it's a very short, specific visit that Charles has been sent on, and Camilla won't even be going to Bermuda. So this is all.
Yeah.
It's quite tight.
It's quite a long trip, though. I think it's like 4 days or maybe 5 days in total. And then we're going to, the King will be going on his own to Bermuda, which is British overseas territory. And I think he'll be, I'm told that's more kind of picture-led. I think all the stories are going to be, Congress, White House going to be incredible.
White House will be big, but I think Congress will be the moment, because, of course, the Queen addressed Congress in 91, I think it was. And I think that's going to be a big moment for the King. I mean, because he's on the world stage. And he's one of the world's great diplomats, isn't he? He's well known as on the world stage, and what he's going to have to say is going to be interesting, I think.
It's exciting, and obviously Royal Exclusive, we've got lots of plans on how we're going to, work out in America and hopefully do some good coverage to come back on this show about it for all our viewers. Talking about television, what were you doing on Saturday night, Samara?
Don't tell him.
Did you watch Saturday Night?
Tell him.
Did you watch Saturday Night Live? That is an American TV show now being restarted. It's now come over to this big institution in America now. It's started.
With Jamie Dornan, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
However, they did a little opening skit on our favourite Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's the butt of jokes now.
Yes, I sort of woke up in my stupor on a Sunday morning and watched it on YouTube, and I thought it was mildly funny. It was interesting. I think it's quite weirdly revolutionary at this point to have any sort of show making fun of the institution. I mean, the week before they had made fun of our Prime Minister, which was quite refreshing. Now they're making fun of Andrew. I mean, these are topics that are dark, but they're almost so dark that you've got to find the light in them and just sort of see the dark comedy within it of how horrible Andrew's life has been PR-wise and what a spectacle it's been for the public. So I thought SNL did a really good job of it. I liked the slight jab at Meghan. That was hilarious. Harry will marry someone who's 98% not popular, or that the British public find it hard to have a conversation about. I think they probably could have gone in harder. There's more fodder there.
Why do you think they didn't? Why do you think they just went? They went for Andrew, didn't they? Well, and the King. They kind of the idea of the joke, the idea of the premise was that Andrew had to be involved in scandals and look absolutely terrible to make Charles look good. That was the joke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I think you're right. They didn't go in as hard, probably because they're trying to stay very clear of making fun of Meghan on the grounds that, you know, in the past people have been fired over that sort of thing. We know that the Sussexes get involved when their feelings get hurt. So, I mean, yeah, I think they were steering clear of that. But obviously Andrew is up for any jokes to be made out about him, and he is a laughing stock at the moment in terms of how he's dithering and dallering all over the place with what he's been doing.
Is that right, Rob? Is he just ripe for comedy? Is he just a laughing stock
Well, it's
now?
a bit tame. I think they were a bit tame, but like, I grown up with Spitting Image, but you know, where the puppets were good and the satire was good, and they would be made to look completely ridiculous, the royal family. And most politicians were, you know, gibbering idiots. So, you know, I actually think that it was quite tame, really, you know, and that we've become a bit tame. Was, you know, in the past, the royal family, you know, you had the Queen Mother drinking gin, and you had Prince Philip spitting venom at the people. it was, you know, it used to be the norm. And you know, Andrew and Fergie were just seen as complete buffoons.
Oh, well, Fergie was dragged into it as well, wasn't
That
she?
impression was
laughed
good,
about
I
her
have to
walk,
say. Pardon?
which I'd never noticed before. They just started laughing about her walk.
Yeah, I can't unsee it now, though. I thought it was really good.
Well,
But
it's not like the walk of a ballerina, is it?
It was quite funny, as I say, and I found it interesting that they've, you know, that they chose second open it on their second episode on a little funny about Andrew. But surely the best punchlines are when Andrew was on Newsnight talking about going to a pizza restaurant and not being able to sweat. That you'll never be able to top those.
No, you can't. They're brilliant. You get laughs anytime. But the trouble is, I mean, I've done a few talks and you know, I did that line where you said, I wasn't there, you know, you show a picture of you with Andrew when I remember interviewing him, and I said, I wasn't there, I was at a Pizza Hut in Pizza Express in Woking. But the trouble is now that you can't really joke about it too much because it's got even more serious than it, you know, than before. It's, you know, he's now been arrested. I mean, and you know, over the role as an envoy. But the whole thing seems to get even murkier. So, you know, the jokes around it can become more difficult, I think.
Well, it's darker.
Yeah, it's definitely darker. Yeah,
it's darker, but on the surface there is that sort of Tweedledee and Tweedledum nature of Andrew and Fergie, and just the way that they can't put a foot right and never really have been able to, at least for the past sort of 20 years or so.
We're still waiting for him to move into Marsh Farm. So we wrote the story at The Sun, back in January, that Marsh Farm was being renovated. The palace keeps saying that he's due to be in by Easter.
It's been wrecked. I mean, the poor place looked quite nice before. Now with this lump of this sort of Peaky Blinders caravan on the side of it, it's just dreadful. I mean, you know, this was quite a nice sort of country home. It's just awful now, you know, the way it's been. You know, I don't know. I think that when he eventually, if he ever moves in, I mean, you know, it just seems crazy to me what's been going on.
Well, surely it feels like he's dragging his heels. He might get uncomfortable at Wood Farm.
Well, he had to be sort of dragging and screaming out of Royal Lodge. I think it'd be the same at Wood Farm. And if he could stay at Wood Farm and put his security and staff up in the other place, I'm sure that's what he'd prefer.
We have seen a couple of photos of Andrew. We hadn't seen him since that, and you know, incredible photo coming out of the police station, the unforgettable photo. We've seen a couple of pictures of him recently, and it was described, I think, in The Sun as wistfully looking at his horses after he'd been banned from riding, Rob.
I mean, has he been banned from riding? That does seem a bit ridiculous, but wistfully is a good word for The Sun. No, I don't know. I think that the man is, you know, he had his opportunities. He should have gone and answered questions, and I don't think he's got any credibility ever. He'll never get any credibility again because he's just avoided the subject, and it's a very serious subject. And, you know, he's just not answered questions. All he's done is said that, you know, he had nothing to do with it, can't remember these people, don't have any recollection. It's just not good enough.
Yeah, and I think he'll be staying out away from the photographers when Charles and Camilla are in the USA.
Yeah. It has to. I mean, you know, because they need to change the subject. They need to change the narrative on. But, you know, whilst you've got him here, whilst you've always got... the Andrew's going to be this problem continually until it's addressed. And they can't really do anything or go anywhere without being shouted at, you know, from the monarchists, the anti-monarchy group. And it's a real problem for the monarchy going forward because this will be the legacy of this reign.
The legacy of
Yeah,
Charles'
I think
reign.
you had the legacy of this reign so far has been really the fallout of William and Harry and the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor arrest. They're the two seismic things that have happened on the reign of Charles III. Everything else, actually, you know, he's done great jobs in France and Germany and diplomatically, but it just pales into insignificance, actually.
Well, before we move on, I mean, he's sorted, if we're talking about the King's legacy, he's sorted Andrew, hasn't he? He's kicked him out of Royal Lodge and stripped him of his titles.
And maybe paid to, you know, millions of pounds towards a woman that Andrew didn't know, which we were told, oh, did it happen or didn't it happen? Well, you know, I think it's really time the royal family and the palace stop sort of, you know, hiding in the shadows and answers questions directly, because actually in the long run, everything comes out.
Yes, and some would say that he didn't move too quickly on any of these issues, and that's obviously partly because it's his brother. I think we'll find that under William, there is no messing around. He will be very fast to cut people loose, and I think that that's a much better thing. And I think that William's basically wanting to know that his legacy isn't going to be tarnished by this, and almost the king has had to take the fall for it.
Well, in a way, but you know, if the king did part with millions of pounds of hush money, that's not a great situation. And the reality is that yes, he may have warned the late Queen, you know, to take action, you know, and she didn't do it. But on his watch, he did take action. Yes, but you know, you've got to be very open and honest and transparent about things about money, because why would anybody give £12, let alone £12 million, to someone they don't know, they've never met? And where did that money come from? It still is something that's not been properly answered. Yeah, we know the palace brief behind the scenes, oh, the king didn't do this. But the reality is you can't do this briefing behind the scenes. You've got to be transparent and open and honest. This is a very serious situation. And if they did part with that cash, and it gets proven that that is the case, then the king has got a real problem.
Let's talk about Beatrice and Eugenie. So the royal family are very clear, or the king in particular has been very clear after he dealt with Andrew and Sarah, that he doesn't really want the sins of the parents to, you know, damage Beatrice and Eugenie. He has an immense fondness for them. They're not going to the Easter service. So they're not going to be seen with the king, with William, with Catherine and the Queen at Easter service, which is a big deal. But they have been invited to join the royal family at Royal Ascot. Guys, where do you stand on where Beatrice and Eugenie go now?
I mean, I think that optically it's not good for them to be at any of the events, really. I think they're still very much intertwined with Andrew's and Fergie's drama, their mother and their father. I think that they live lives outside enough of the royal family to be able to do that. They're not that reliant on what the royal family has to offer them. So I think that they should stay well away. I mean, they've been embroiled in different scandals along the way with the Epstein files. You know, it's also come out the lavish lifestyle they were living.
They were very young. I mean, we're talking about 19, 20 years old when Epstein was like arrested, and Sarah took them out to meet Epstein and stuff like that. They, you know, they, in their defence, they were quite young at the time.
They're adults.
They're adults.
Yes, but you know, everyone keeps saying that, you know, they were almost victims in this way because of the certain emails that Fergie sent, etc. But we need to understand that the Epstein files were also about class, and they were the most privileged young girls in the world, really, at the time. And Epstein preyed upon working class girls, those who were underprivileged and those who couldn't speak up. So I actually don't think that we should put them all in the same category.
I think he preyed on any girls. I mean, I think he was a despicable, evil man. And I think at 18-year or 19-year-old, you're fully aware that if a man has gone to prison and is a paedophile, the last thing you should be worrying about is whether you get upgraded to club class on a ticket he's buying for you. The last thing you should be doing is meeting him, even if your mother suggests it's a good idea. So personally, I think it's time. I call this sort of the 1917 moment where the royal family's got to wake up and smell the roses, because, you know, and William certainly is. And I think William is right in what he's doing. As you said, Samara, that he's not going to pussyfoot around with all this stuff. He's going to say there's got to be an end of it. And part of that ending needs to be a change to the line of succession. You don't need all these people. It's ridiculous. And they should not be. And I think that they, personally, going forward, I don't think you need all these people with titles either. You know, you just need William and his family. That's it. And I don't think you need any more. And I think the rest of it, and it's time to sort of have a really proper look at it as well. Instead of saying they're all focusing on what Kate's wearing or whatever, let's just look at what the monarchy's for. And the monarchy cannot have a long line of various princesses and duchesses and people that, ultimately are just going to damage it. And should they be at Royal Ascot, they need to be as far away from the public sight as possible at the moment.
Do you think?
Absolutely, I do. I think because they are intrinsically involved. Their mother and father were taking loads of money from Epstein, and they are in line to the throne. I think that it's fine that they're obviously benefiting at that time from what was going on with Epstein. And I think the best thing for them is, if they do want to serve the royal family, is to stay out of the picture.
Well, William and Catherine a couple of years ago, William actually a couple of years ago invited Beatrice and Eugenie to go to a Buckingham Palace garden party because both the King and Catherine were off at the time because they had cancer. Yeah. If Beatrice and Eugenie were to be invited, they've been invited to Ascot, we're waiting to see if they turn up in a carriage. It's still many, many months in the future. Anything could happen. What's the public reaction? Are people going to boo them in the same way that they might boo Andrew or Meghan?
But they might do. I doubt it, though. I doubt that they will. But I think the royal family got to look at what they want to be. And William, I think, has got the right idea. He's actually going to be quite a little bit more, he's certainly going to be more ruthless than his father. But this is a scandal that's just not going away. I mean, it's very murky. It's dark. And they're associated with it.
Whether we like it or not, they have been tarnished by the Epstein brush, and I don't think there's any getting out of that or rinsing themselves of that for a very long time. And as I said, they socially mountaineered their way into good marriages, and they can afford to just go off and live their own life.
Oh, there's strong opinions on Beatrice and Eugenie. I didn't know that this topic would ignite such different views. As I say,
I just think they've got to stay away. I think that they have to stay away. I mean, I'm with Samara on this. I think that you're just drawing attention to them. But, as a journalist, we know what's going to happen. As soon as they're in the carriage with someone at Ascot, we'll all be focusing on what they're wearing, what they're doing, and who's with them.
Maybe. One of the most bizarre stories of the week, or two of the most bizarre stories. I'll start with the first one. They both involve Harry. That he wants an invite from his father, the King, to come over and stay at Sandringham this summer. Is that pie in the sky thinking? And what's going on there? That sounds crazy.
What is going on there? I mean.
I would think that's PR's briefing behind the scenes, trying to gee up a story. That reality is, if you want to get an invite, maybe pick up the phone and try and speak to your dad rather than do it through PRs. I know that, to me, it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. How's the King going to do this? Every time Harry comes over, there's a big 3-act play about it, isn't there? And it's a media circus. I think the most important thing the King wants is peace. Peace and quiet. He doesn't want trouble from his wife, because after Harry called his wife wicked or whatever. He doesn't want trouble from his son and heir, William, after the fallout. So, every time... I'm sure that if it was just Charles and Harry and nobody else around, that they could probably meet and have a nice time together. But it's so many other add-ons here.
World peace, family peace, the King's got a lot on his plate at the moment.
Yes. What would happen if he went to Sandringham? You've got William and Catherine at Anmer Hall round the corner, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor over at Marsh Farm, and Harry and the King, being happy families in the big Sandringham main house.
Tom Cobley and all, yeah. I mean, to me, it's a non-starter, but we'll see.
I think it's been pushed out there because it's still trying to put pressure on Charles to maybe intervene and maybe give Harry his security.
Is he going to be there in the summer? I thought it'd be at Balmoral in the summer.
Yeah.
So that's completely wrong. Maybe the PR that was briefing it didn't realise there's a royal calendar that Sandringham's Christmas, Balmoral and Birkall's in the summer.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Rob's a cynic.
And maybe, just maybe, if Harry wanted a reconciliation with his father, then he just deals with his father directly. Yeah.
Well, how does his father not know that, the Netflix money's drying up, the book deals are unrivaled?
Right.
I need just one more line I can use. I mean, how does the King know? How can he trust him?
They have to have, they're going on a trip to Australia.
Yeah.
The story has to have currency for them to be, it can't all be negative. They were briefing about 35,000 signatures, and it's going to cost in Australia a lot of money to have with them there. and they were saying it's all privately funded. And so they need to have another story that is linking the royal family with it. So it's just a case of briefing. But best to get the royal calendar right, because it's not the right time of year to be at Sandringham.
Is it not an attempt, as I think has been suggested, by putting it out there that he would accept an invite from the King back to maybe not Sandringham, Balmoral in the summer where he's there on holiday, that he'd only come back with his family if he gets security. So if the King suddenly thinks, Harry wants to come back with his grandchildren, I'll help him out of his taxpayers' security. Is it not trying to put a more emotional blackmail on the King?
Matt, if he's saying if his PR's briefing that he's going to have, he wants to come to this trip, he's got several months before that happens, which means he can then liaise with the people about getting security in its current form and would be given the security that is necessary. He might not be given the SAS or whatever he wants, I'm not quite sure he wants, but he would have got full security. Yeah. He would have got full security because he just would have to let them know that he's arriving at this time. And so that was never been a problem.
Okay, and the other bizarre story that I've been reading this week is, do we know what the royal family might call you, Rob or Samara? Do you know any members of the royal family? Do you know what they might say about you?
Cuddle snuggles.
I don't know if it's broadcastable what they might.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
I mean, I know that Harry once pointed in my face. He wasn't very complimentary once about a story that I did when I was on the News of the World. And that was quite fun. So he wasn't very complimentary then, no.
So he didn't call you "Hey Sugar," because these are messages that have come out.
And I never called him Your Royal Highness either. I think I called him Mate. Oof. I think that was the thing. Yeah.
Because these are messages that have come out at the end of Harry's very long.
Go on, read it out, because I think it is quite amazing. Go on.
There's messages shared with that have come out in evidence literally on the final day, showing that Harry was in contact with a newspaper journalist, despite I think some heavy denials earlier in the trial.
Who was it? Charlotte?
It was Charlotte Griffiths at the Mail on Sunday, and he messaged her saying it was after they'd hung out at a party, saying "Hey Sugar" and "Miss our movie snuggles."
Oh, I thought you never talked to journalists.
That's what he's saying. Then other messages were saying like, "I'm going to be hungover again for the third day running," and then also one of the messages that stood out to me was he wrote that he had to make polite conversation with strange people at a dinner last night, begging them for money for charity.
Now, what a horrible and hard life he does lead.
But he's given evidence that he has no interaction or leaks with journalists, and nor did any of his friends. He gave evidence to that effect. So is he lying?
But it also just debunks his entire narrative that his life is destroyed and ruined by the press that has just hounded him since he was a child, and he just can't get away from them, and all he wants is privacy. I mean, when you're messaging a journalist like that just shows
that's
that
where I went wrong. In my 35 years ago in the royal family, I never offered myself as weekend cinema snuggles.
That was the problem all along. I mean, it also shows his sort of debaucherous lifestyle at the time. I mean, being hungover a third day in a row, right, Harry? Like, gosh, I thought you were on duty. It just, it's very casual.
I actually am quite shocked by it, actually. I think it's quite shocking. Number one, that he's lied openly in court. I mean, that's pretty appalling. But more important, strangely, is what on earth is going on with these messages? And why are you then saying, I thought he was going out with someone then, wasn't he? Was he with Chelsea or someone, or was he in between?
Yeah,
I mean, it all seems a little bit weird to me.
But again, we only see the messages. Anything more about that, about Harry lying, or about any kind of, as you're talking about, he had a girlfriend and stuff like that.
In court, we do know, he said that his circle
did not leak, and he didn't even.
But he clearly then is not including himself in that circle.
Yeah.
That was vintage Harry, wasn't it? That was him before Meghan, and before he became sort of very paranoid about the media and all that.
Read it again, because that snuggle, what did he call her?
He was caught messaging a journalist saying, "Hey Sugar," and in that message...
sugar what? Just sugar?
Hey Sugar.
Okay.
And he said that he misses our movie snuggles.
What on earth is he?
That's got to... Okay.
Have they been to the back row of the pictures?
These are extraordinary. Well, look, that's all we know
anything
from
for a story.
The messages.
Anything for a story.
But that's quite... I mean, I don't blame her. I think that's great. She's
I'm just interested
snuggles.
in what you think that Harry might send you in a text message if he ever had your number, Rob, or Samara? What do you think? Not Hey Sugar, but how do you think he would address?
Well, I remember I did the story about him when I was in the News of the World about him making a racist comment, and it was a big splash at the time, and against one of his army colleagues when he was a cadet, and he said, "Where's your secret camera?" And I said, "Well, with the greatest respect, mate, it was your camera, your racist comment, and and someone in your circle that obviously handed over the video." Which I had to apologise for, and I did apologise. I apologise for calling him mate because he's not my mate.
This is a story. I remember the story. It was on the way back from
he called another cadet our little something, and it was appalling. And
he once, when I was at Invictus Games a while ago, I don't know if you knew who I was, but he was clearing up some little cones because there was an event, and he was just kind of just because he was there, and he did jokingly look like. Pretend to kind of throw it at me. I think that's the only chance that he could have said something to me. But he wouldn't have called me Hey Sugar anyway.
No, I remember being on a plane with him, flying to New Zealand. And I just broke the story that he was quitting the army, and he was quite good actually. He came back. He was, there was only a few of us on the trip, and he came back and I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he said, "I'm going to try and really do a lot for guys with prosthetics, with the army, and I met this guy in Australia who's got this special procedure." He said, "But you'll probably find out about what I'm doing next before me." So he was always a bit chippy with me, but he's all right. I think he's okay. But, a nice little snuggle sugar. It's a nice little man, really nice. I like it.
Extraordinary.
Snuggle buddy, or whatever he calls her.
Oh, I've got another third quite interesting story on my list. So Thomas Markle has found romance.
Yeah.
This is a story about a nurse, a Filipino nurse, 35 years younger than him, 2 years older than Meghan. I mean...
Rio is her name, I believe.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's no fool like an old fool, that's all I can say.
But look, he's had a rough year.
It's great. He looks
She's not trying to sort of take advantage of this whole man,
She
didn't even know he was a Markle.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what she's claiming.
Yeah, okay. Well, she knows.
It'd be nice
colour
to
of a
just be
greenback,
happy out there.
doesn't
Look, I've met him, I spoke to him. I think he's very troubled. He's very stressed over everything that happened with Meghan, and it's really affected him badly. He's got out of Mexico. He's living in the Philippines. Yeah. He's lost half of his leg. Come on, we're looking for a bit of happiness. Apparently,
she's restored his speech, which is just such good news. I mean, that man has been through hell. I genuinely thought Meghan would be the death of him. But clearly, Rio has reinstilled his, lust for life. And I'm happy about that. I mean, he really has. That family, even when we talk about money, they actually don't have that much. That was a lot of the reason why they were in such peril and why he had to get his leg amputated and all that, because his health was terrible. He wasn't getting the help he needed. So they met in this rehabilitation centre, and they've been living there and they're living there for the foreseeable. And I think it's just happy. I mean, he said in quotes that he never thought that he'd get over Meghan, and now he kind of has. So will Meghan be... Will Meghan be coming
maybe the wedding?
Yeah, stepmom 2 years older.
You're clearly an incurable romantic. I'm an incurable cynic. I really am.
I sympathise with the Markles. They're salt of the earth people who have been so wronged.
Me and Samara have empathy, and we have heart, Robert. Okay.
I'm just a bit cynical about the whole thing, to be honest.
You're in a cynical mood today.
No, I'm not. No, I mean, I must be honest. The whole of this show, what's slightly blown me away is the story that you kept about the journalists and the cinema snuggles. And I think that's, if you actually stop and think about that for a while, it's extraordinary that he's had the front to go to court and fight these cases and say he has nothing to do with journalists when he's been sending messages about, I'm sugar and I miss our cinema snuggles. That, to me, beggars belief.
It's an extraordinary way to end the trial. The 9-week trial, to end it on those messages. A couple other stories this week. How do you feel about beards and moustaches? Because Prince William obviously famously, developed or grew a beard. He scared Charlotte. He told us in Cape Town. He said that Charlotte cried when she first saw Princess Charlotte.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I thought it was Charlotte Griffiths.
No. Different. He scared Princess Charlotte. She was in tears when she first saw his beard. But he was at the Mercian Regiment a couple of days ago, and the trend now, Samara, with this is for many of the soldiers to have rather resplendent moustaches, and he joked that maybe he would shave his beard off and have a moustache.
I think you'd much prefer to have your head of hair, Matt, I think, to be honest, than a beard. But now he's lost his hair on the top, he's gone for the beard. It suits him. It's a sort of very kingly look, isn't it? It's like George V, and it's that sort of look.
A bit Tsar Nicholas,
actually. Tsar Nicholas, yeah. Well, they were like cousins, weren't they? They look very similar. So I think it suits him. I think it suits him. And obviously his wife must like it, otherwise he wouldn't have it.
I agree, but I also sympathise with Charlotte. I remember during my childhood, my dad came back from a work trip with a beard, and I almost had a 1-2. I couldn't handle it. It's it is scary. We know William in such a way, and to see him change his look up, because he's so sort of straight edge.
I think moustache should be more worrying.
That would be
70s.
That would be mental breakdown.
70s look.
He's a man. For me now, he is a man with a beard. He shouldn't be a man with a moustache. That's what he is now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I can't barely remember him without a beard. He's a bearded man now. But anyway, no moustache, please. Right.
Yeah, moustache is very sort of, Magnum.
Yeah,
things
very
like that. It's the
much.
1970s and 80s look, which is a bit outdated. I think that would really be. I can't imagine a king with just that.
Don't do it, William. Right, and finally, we just got time for our quickfire questions.
Oh, here we go.
All right. So, I hope you're prepared. So, with Andrew appearing on a Saturday Night Live sketch, which other royal, dead or alive, should get the same treatment?
It's got to be Meghan and Harry, in my opinion. I mean, there's so much to go at there. I mean, the privacy tour, etc., that South Park went for. I would love an extension of that. But everything they do is comical and a strange move, and there's just so much comedy within it. I wish they would do that.
Rob still thinking?
No, I personally think. I mean, I like the history things. I think if you can imagine putting yourself back 90 years, Wallace Simpson and Edward VIII. They would make a comedy duo.
These are good punchlines there.
All the things that had gone on. I'd like to hear them being, taken to pieces, taken to town.
Yeah, and remembered as well as was what they were. And number 2, the King is heading to the US to save the special relationship. What should the mission name be?
Mission Impossible. That's what it should be.
I like that. Yeah, Mission Impossible. I mean, it should be something like Desert Storm or something like that, because he's on a war footing, Trump, at the moment. But I think the King would do pretty well actually out there.
Royal Orange.
And finally, after a year of royal scandals, which royal deserves our best Easter blessings and why? I'm asking you to be nice, Robert, if you can, to someone. That's why you're looking at me so weird.
Our Easter blessings, really. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think obviously my blessings would go to the King, because he's still doing all that he's doing, dealing with all that he's dealing with, his brother, his sons, all these things, and he's doing it whilst fighting cancer. So I send him my blessings. Yeah.
He has a heart, Rob. See.
My blessings would probably go with the children. I think that Charlotte, Louis, and George have been through it, and just to see the little stories that come out about what they're doing in their schooling, how they're triumphing, how they're just getting on with their life, and how they're having a sort of childhood that, at least from the outside, looks quite kindred. I'm just happy that they're trudging along, and there's so many qualities of the late Queen in all of them.
Great, it's just lovely to see.
Yeah, great mum and dad. So I hope that they're well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate both of you coming on, and I think we had a lot of fun. And we went through a lot of some of the week's incredible
Not as much fun
news.
as Harry.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time. Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks to my guests, Robert and Samara, and thanks to you, as always, for watching. Remember to subscribe to us here on our Royal Exclusive YouTube channel for all the latest royal news, and we'll see you next week.